Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 10 of Cameron's Nostalgia Podcast. We made it all the way to 10 episodes of my show. I'm your host, Cameron Strickland, and today I have with me David Bizzaro. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Cameron. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Great. Now, for any of the guys who don't know, David is a puppeteer and puppet builder. He's done multiple work with Mish and Mash and Sesame Street. Waffles and Mochi restaurant, and the Muppets Mayhem, and many more.
That's right. Yeah. Lots of fun jobs over the years. I feel very fortunate to have been able to, get to play with all my favorite characters.
Yes. Okay, let's begin our first question.
Okay, I'm ready.
How did you get interested in puppetry?
That is a great question. I've been interested in puppetry since I was a young child, but I didn't know growing up. Sorry for the paper sounds. That's my cat. Uh, I didn't know when I was a kid that you could become a puppeteer as your job. That just wasn't something that I knew existed. My mother is not originally from this country, and uh, I don't think that she knew that that was something that was possible. And so it wasn't really ever a focus in our house. If I watched Sesame Street or the Muppets, there wasn't a thought of like, oh yeah, I could go, you know, be a puppeteer on those shows, or I could go build puppets for the Jim Henson Company. And so when I got older, I was, working in the arts. I've done all kinds of art. I've studied animation in college. I've studied filmmaking. I was a filmmaker for many years. And I also worked for this band called The Flaming Lips, where I was making music videos and documentaries and backing videos and toys, all kinds of artwork for them. And I don't want to say left, but once I was done working with them, I thought it might be a good time to try doing puppetry. And so I was about 26 at the time. And I reached out to a potential client and said, hey, you should try commercials with puppets. And he was like, oh, wow. Do you know how to build puppets? And I didn't know how to build puppets or perform them or how to make videos for them. And I just said, of course I can make a puppet commercial for you. And little did I know, and little did, my client know that me taking that leap and working really hard to make that commercial happen, what laid the foundation for, the next, like almost 15 years of my life. I'm not doing good math in the moment. I'm 40 now. And so however long 26 to 40 is, I'll let the audience do the math. uh it laid the groundwork, yeah, for me to be able to pursue it and become the puppeteer that I am today.
Nice. So, what was your first on camera debut?
Ooh, good question. My first on camera debut. Okay, we'll go with paid. So I've been an actor since I was a kid. Do you want me to tell you my first on camera as an actor or first on camera as a puppeteer? Or both?
Both.
Both. Okay. So as a kid, I started acting when I was 13, 12 or 13. And the first time I was on camera was when I was 15. And I was doing like local commercials and that sort of a thing. And then my first like real big part or big thing that I did was when I was 16, I was in Louisiana shooting videos for Tulane University. I had been hired by this company to shoot the freshman orientation videos. So whenever you're starting in college, they I don't know if they still do this, but they would send you, excuse me, they would send you a video with someone giving you a tour of the school. And they hired me to give you the tour of that school. Even though I was 16, I guess I looked older to them. And there's been I guess, a lot of freshmen at Tulane that have probably seen my face introducing them to the school. But that same year, or that while I was in Louisiana, I was hanging out on the campus and was approached by a producer of MTV's Road Rules, and they were doing a series called Campus Crawl, and they asked me if I'd be interested in hosting an episode because they thought I was an art student, and I said, sure, yeah, of course, I'll do that. And that sort of not having the fear to take the leap, to take a chance, has always been a part of me. And I've realized that now that I'm older, that I've always not been afraid of saying yes to something that I felt would be a good experience for me. And so, yeah, not having that fear led to me having my first really kind of major appearance on camera, which was on MTV's Road Rules Campus Crawl. And so if you look up and try to find the episode where they're in Louisiana, you'll see me hosting the episode. Very young, 16-year-old David on camera. Now, my first puppetry on camera was, I don't know if you'll be able to even find it. It might be online. But it was the first or second year I was living in New York. And James Voital, who is a builder, really super talented builder, really talented puppeteer. He was working on a video for like sketch videos for a VO company. And I think it was a pilot. And he had heard my name. I guess I was the only available person in town. And he was like, hey, would you want to come? You might get to puppeteer a puppet, but you'll probably just be helping me wiggle some arms. And so doing some puppetry assisting. And I said, sure. And I went down, and it ended up where they needed somebody to perform a character. And so I, was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll do it. And I performed the character, and it was a lot of fun, and I got paid for it. And that was my very first time performing a puppet on camera.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, moving on, you got to work on Star Wars Episode 5, Attack of Phantom Past.
So that's on my IMDb. That's not the actual Star Wars movies. That's a parody video that a friend of mine did on his YouTube channel. There's a YouTube channel called Arlnauts, and they do parody videos of all the Star Wars films. And for a while, I was helping them do like little visual effects. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Doctor Who. Do you know that show?
Yes.
So the Doctor Who's biggest villain are the Daleks. And we thought it'd be funny if we added a Dalek to the Jedi Temple, as if a Dalek had become a Jedi, because they have creatures from all over the universe. And so I helped them do things like that by adding characters that weren't actually supposed to be there, or doing voiceovers to do these parody videos. So I didn't work on Star Wars, but I did work on a parody video that was just a comedy fun thing that's on YouTube.
Oh, right. All right. You worked on Sienna's Ocean Buddies.
I did. That was some virtual puppetry that we did for Sesame Studios. And it was me and Haley Jenkins. Haley Jenkins is amazing. She plays Donkey on Don Quixote. And her and I played some characters on a I forgot the name, and you just said it. The Sienna's Sea Friends, is that right? Uh, yeah. So I played a seahorse that I think, what did he sound like? He I can't even remember, but he was a kind of a high pitched character, and we were controlling digital characters on screen. So we had these sensors below our hands that were tracking what our hands were doing. And so we would move our hands in certain ways, and it would control a 3D character on the screen. And so it was all happening live, and there was no rendering of the video afterwards. It all happened right as we were looking at it. And it was a lot of fun. And Haley played Sienna, the shark.
Um, the seahorse's name is Clarence.
That's right, Clarence. Uh, I think he sort of talked up in here. I think he was up there. He's really high and pitchy and sort of sounded like this, kind of a weird, sort of trumpety sounded guy. He was kind of like that. But it was fun. It was really a fun project to work on.
All right. And how about Brainchild?
Brainchild. That was a there was a Netflix show where I just came in and did some assist work. I did the right hand work of a puppet character that Puppet Kitchen had built, and Eric Wright was performing. I also I took one of their blank puppets and put on the features to the face, and so I put on the eyes and the nose and the hair and whatnot on that puppet. And so I did a little bit of building for that show, and then just did some right hand work.
Uh, you still have that puppet.
I don't have that puppet anymore. That wasn't my puppet. That puppet belonged to Puppet Kitchen. I don't know what happened to that puppet. I don't know if they rented it to the show or if they gave it to the show. I don't know where it is. Could be anywhere.
Oh, you worked on the short film called "Fill It Out," a scenes parody.
Yes, my friend Christiana Lopez is a super talented director and writer and comedian, and I did a guest spot on her sketch. It was a really lovely online parody video about the New York census, because a lot of people weren't filling it out, and she made a really funny parody sketch about it where people were confused about how the parody or not the parody of how the census worked. Uh, yeah, it was fun.
Okay, you played the role of Mochi in Waffles and Mochi's restaurant.
Yes, that's my official first ever starring role as a puppeteer. And it was a super fun show to work on. I made a lot of friends. Sarah Berman, who plays Waffles, is so talented and brought some amazing life to that character. And her and I played off each other super well. And Mochi was a fun puppet. It was challenging to perform that puppet because it was just a ball on a stick, and there was no mechanism to make him move or anything. And he was a little bit smaller than my fist. And so puppeteering him, I had to be really gentle with how I moved my hand, because if I moved really quickly, it would look like he was jerking around. So I had to be really subtle with my movements and very intentional with what I was doing. Even when I was making big, exciting movements with him, I had to be very, very subtle. And so even though he was a little guy and I couldn't really move him a lot, I still had to tap into my acting experience to be patient with him and be patient with the performance and my movements, so that he wouldn't, look like he wasn't really alive.
Hmm. Have you ever met Millie Possum?
Millie Possum. Have I met Millie Possum? I don't know that I have. Have you met Millie Possum? Possum?
No.
No. Dang it. We should try to meet Millie Possum.
And she is built by Kevin Blades of Operation Puppet.
Cool.
And Sarah Berman got it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Now I remember who Millie Possum is. Yes. I have not met Millie Possum, uh, but that character is a lot of fun. Do you like Millie Possum?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll have to tell Sarah that you enjoy that character a lot.
And Sarah Berman is going to be my guest.
Wonderful. That's great. You'll have to tell her I said hello. She's really wonderful.
Sarah, if you're watching this, you can say hello to me.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey. And Millie too.
Yeah, and we can't forget Millie. Millie would get mad if we forgot to say hi to her.
Oh, poor Millie.
I know. No one ever remembers Millie. I know.
Okay. So, what was it like working on the Muppets Mayhem?
Working on the Muppets Mayhem was a dream come true. I got to work alongside of people that I've, idolized and looked up to for many years. When I was a kid, one of the first Muppet movie I ever saw was Muppets in Space, and I know that's a divisive film because a lot of people don't really like that one very much. Uh, but I saw it in theaters when I was a kid, and it was my first time seeing the Muppets on screen. And you know, my I'm Latino, and when I was watching the film and I saw Pepe the King Prong on screen performing, I didn't know who the puppeteer was. I just knew that there's this puppet, that character that sounds like members of my family, and who acts like people who I've seen, that my family are friends with. And I really connected with this character because of that. And so, for a long time, I didn't become like a huge fan or anything or try to seek out more of that. But years later, when I became a puppeteer, and I'm watching more puppet videos and films, I started seeing Pepe the King Prong more. And when I learned that Bill Beretta performs that character and other characters, I really was drawn to his performance style and to the characters that he was creating. Um, and so uh, getting to work with him was a dream come true. That was something I'd never thought would happen because the Muppets, they don't. There isn't always a lot of opportunity to go perform with them, and that's just the nature of the fact that they don't create a lot of stuff these days. And so there's not as much opportunity for new people to come in and perform with them. And so, I already worked with Peter Linz and Leslie Carrera Rudolph, and I hadn't worked with Alice Deneen yet or Dave Goles, but I worked with Matt Vogel and David Rudman and Eric Jacobson on Sesame Street as a puppet wrangler. I'd work with them. And Peter and Leslie had become really close in my life as mentors, teaching me about puppetry, not just performance, but also like how to, you know, be a good, what's it called? Like being, being a good and kind person to work with on set, because that's really important when you're a puppeteer, is to be somebody that people want to work with. And they really helped guide me a lot through a lot of that, and through my professional life and my personal life. So when I got on Muppets, I was so excited that I was going to be working alongside Peter and Leslie, people who have been my mentors, and then also going from just being going from being a puppet wrangler, which is an incredibly important job, and I love that job, but to now be performing alongside them was huge. And there were moments where I was sitting there, in between takes or on my break when someone else was performing, and I would be like a little kid, in a candy shop watching them perform, because because I got to sit there and sit on the sidelines and watch Matt Vogel perform, and Eric, and all of them. They always did something that I would see them do puppetry wise and acting wise that would just amaze me, because they've been doing it for so long, and already they have such, they're so connected with how to perform characters on camera well, that it looks almost effortless, and it isn't. It's difficult, but they make it look effortless, much like a really skilled ballerina would when they're performing at their peak. So yeah, working on the Muppets was amazing and surreal, and one of the most fun experiences I've ever had on a TV show.
Nice. Well, I have a VHS copy of Muppets in Space.
You do?
Yes.
That's really cool.
And I was just gonna show it to you.
Yeah, show it to me. I want to see it. Whoa. And it's in the like puffy case. That's really cool. I love it. I honestly love the opening scenes of all the Muppets living in a house together. I think it's really funny, and there's some really great puppetry happening in there. And it's also some of the early beginnings of Pepe the Prawn. And so it's pretty cool to see how the characters evolve. But that's very awesome. Thank you for showing me that. That's really cool.
You're welcome. What's that being show?
I also see that you have a Pee Wee Herman over there. I used to have that Pee Wee Herman, and I was a big fan of Pee Wee Herman when I was a kid. I think Pee Wee Herman is pretty awesome, and Paul Rubin was an amazing, amazing actor.
Paul Rubens.
Yes, Paul Rubens. I said it wrong. Yeah, Paul Rubens. I always forget the S.
Okay. You have worked on Sox News.
Yes, that was my first time meeting Pam Marciero. She was on that as well, and it was my first time. I already knew Kathy Kim and Spencer Lott. Was Spencer on that? I thought Spencer was on that. And Nate Beagle was on that as well. I knew them, but I hadn't worked with them before, so it was my first time working with them on camera. And Pam was amazing. She's just an awesome human being. She's so cool. But yeah, I performed a very moody goth character who was a sock puppet, and we all worked at a news network called Sox News. And my character worked behind the scenes and was in a little like sort of equipment room for most of their scenes. What was her name? It probably says in the IMDb. I don't remember those things. I'm so bad about that. But yeah, that was a fun show. And working with Kathy, of course, was awesome. And with Nate was so fun. They're so good at what they do.
Uh-huh. All right. So, you worked on the Happy Time Murders as a puppet builder.
I did. That is my very first film credit. I was assisting, so I built bodies, and at first I was assisting Raleigh. I was Raleigh's assistant, and what that means is basically she was designing the characters and building them, and I would assist her in anything she needed to do. And so I was building bodies and sewing the fleece to put it on the body, and putting together arms and hands and sewing the fleece to go over the arms and hands. And I was also there's a vulture in the show, and the builder who started building it, he had to like I can't remember what happened. He had to like go to another studio, or something happened in the production line. I'm not sure exactly what, but they needed me to step in and build the body. And so I came in, and you don't see the character for very long, and they get shot. They own the video shop, uh, and they end up getting shot by a shotgun. But it's this vulture, and the head was already built. I just had to match the head and make a body and make arms. And so that was the first character that, I think it was the first thing I fully built. I may be wrong about that, but it was definitely my first like Muppet style puppet that I built and designed all the parts for Henson. And so I built the body, built the arms, and for the hands, instead of doing, the classic sort of like four fingers, like most of the live hand puppets have, because the vulture had live hands, I wanted to do five fingers because I thought it would make him look a little more odd and weird and not quite fit in. And I had the idea. I was like, well, what if, because there was a Cookie Monster puppet out, and I'd asked if I could design the hands in the same way that Cookie Monster is designed. And so I got to pull out the Cookie Monster patterns, which was pretty cool. And something that I think that, I don't know if people know this or not, I'm sure they do, but Cookie has five fingers, and he doesn't have the four like most of them do. He's got five. And the way that, I may be wrong about that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he doesn't. I think he does, actually. But he's got little tendrils of fur that sort of stick off the tips of his fingers. And the way that was designed, I was like, that's really cool. Let's try to do that for this vulture. Even though it's not going to be seen, I still want to do something unique. And so I made sure there was like little bits of fabric that hung off the fingertips that made the fingers look kind of weird and feathery. And then on the wings, instead of just like putting fur on, me and one of the shop managers had this idea where we would take strips of fur, and I would sew each one on individually. So there were all these like rectangular shapes of fur kind of dangling off, and they're all different colors. And so you don't quite see it, but there's a lot of work that went into the design of that body, because that's one of the things about Henson is that, when you're working for them, or just the shop in general, we want to make things that are really functional and work really well, but we also want them to be really beautiful and unique on and off camera.
Nice. The vulture's name is Vinny,
That's right.
and I shouldn't allow to watch Happy Time Murders on theaters because it was rated R.
Yes, it's an adult film with a lot of adult humor in it. And that's unfortunate because it sort of limits the audience that they can go see the film. But maybe you'll get to one day, and you'll get to see some of the work that happens. Bill Beretta plays the main character in it, and Kevin Clash plays a character in it. There's a lot of puppeteers that do a lot of really cool stuff in there, and there's also a lot of really cool building. A lot of cool puppets were built for that show. And the Henson shop was busy. I'd asked one of the master builders there if they've seen the shop, this busy, or how long it's been. And they said they hadn't seen this many people in the shop. I think she said since Christmas Carol. And so it had been a long time since there had been that many people at the New York Henson shop.
All right. You have worked on the Magical One Chase as a puppet wrangler.
That's right. That was the first time I worked as a puppet wrangler for Sesame Street. They needed someone to step in because they were just short a person, and they asked me if I was interested, and I said, sure. I know nothing about it, but I'd love to. And I went and worked, and that year it was the hottest summer in New York City, and we did most of our shoots outside. And there's a photo somewhere, I've got to dig it up, but there's a photo of me on my second day. Yeah, my second day. We're outside in like 100-degree weather, and I'm holding about 15 sesame puppets in my arms because we're about to like do a big scene, and I'm just like holding all of them. So I'm covered in fur. It's super hot outside, and I'm about to hand these puppets off, and you just look at me, and I look like I'm just like, I'm so hot. Get me out of here. What's going on? But it was so much fun, and there was a lot I learned on that. The I was working just basically assisting. Like I wasn't doing a lot of the major, because there's usually like if there's three wranglers on set, there's usually the lead, um the person who's kind of like the right next to her or right under that person, and then there's the assist wrangler, and that's kind of what I was on that shoot. I was like, if there's anything extra that these two people cannot do, I do it, or I carry all the equipment and I move the boxes around because there's still things I don't know. But there was a lot of stuff about like how to sew a hole on puppets from the outside very quickly and hide the stitches and hide the knots. I was taught that when I was there, and there were other things like that, and you work faster when you're hot and uncomfortable because you want to just be done. And so I learned how to work very quickly on puppets during that time. And by the end of it, I was very tired and very dehydrated because we'd been out in the sun so much. But that was a fun one. That was my first time meeting Leslie as well as like a bunch of the other puppeteers.
You still have that photo.
I think so. I don't know where it is. It might be like I have a lot of hard drives sitting around on my desk. It might be in a hard drive that I don't know which one that would be, because I back up all my computer content onto hard drives, and then I put them away.
Okay. And you worked on another short film called The Pits.
Yes, the Pits. I wrote the Pits and produced it, and I performed the characters in that. That was my short film, and it's about a avocado searching for its other half. So it's like a 2.5 minute short film, and there's an avocado half that has no pit, like no seed in its belly, and it's going around the city trying to fit things inside of its pit, and they keep falling out. And at the end of very end of the short film, they arrive at Bethesda Fountain, which is a fountain in New York City, and they see another half of an avocado with a pit, with a little seed in their belly, and they get really happy and they come together and they hug, and that's the whole film. It's very sweet. There's no dialogue, and that toured around the world. Really, like went to a tons of international film festivals. It won a bunch of awards. I'm really happy that a super short film like that resonated with so many people.
And you worked on another short film called Night Session.
Night Session, that's right. That's unreleased. That is gonna be really good. I think everyone should check it out when it comes out. I worked on the story and the script with a friend of mine for that, and it's funny. It's live action. There's no puppets. It's all people, but I think it's going to be a good time. People should check it out when it comes out.
Uh-huh. Is that a Christmas short film?
Night Sessions. It is not a Christmas short film. It's does it say Christmas on there?
No.
Okay. It might be. What? No, not a Christmas short film. No, I don't think there's Christmas in it. Although I do love Christmas. Christmas is a really fun time of the year.
Okay. And you worked on Blastula, the making of, and Bryce Onic.
That's right. Blastula is a documentary that I worked on about the Flaming Lips creating the Blastula album. And so I was on that. I worked like shooting the videos and editing the documentary together. And yeah, we followed the band and recorded them, recording the album, and I think playing the album live as well. And Yeah, I took all the footage together and I edited it together. That's a hard word to say. Edited it together.
Okay. You worked on the Scary Stories video.
Scary stories video. Which one was that? Was that mine? Was that my scary stories? I did a scary stories series on my YouTube channel a long, long time ago. It might be that. Yeah, I think it's that. There was a video we did, and we had my friend Steve Burns come on, and this is when he was living in Williamsburg in New York, and we went into his backyard and recorded a scary holiday video in his backyard where he's talking to a puppet, reassuring them that that fear is something that you don't have to be afraid of, and you can figure out how to not control it or get rid of it, but how to work with it. And then they both get scared by a small bunny character that was performed by Kathy Kim, and she did a really great job with that character.
And Steve Burns is the host of Blues Clues.
That's right. He was the first host of Blues Clues and is a really amazing human being. He's just a great, great person. And I feel really fortunate to know him.
I did met him in GalaxyCon on
Cool.
September 17th, 2022.
Okay. That's awesome.
And I used to watch Blues Clues when I was little, back in my old house.
Blues Clues is a really good show. And yeah, once my son is old enough, we're going to start watching Blues Clues together.
All right. So, you have worked on Fill It Out. I mean, we already did this.
Yeah, we already talked about Fill It Out. Yeah. Um, but it is a good one. People should still go watch it. It's online. I like doing this with my hands.
And you got to puppeteer Mochi in the Drew Barrymore show.
I did. So we did a segment out in New York with Drew Barrymore, and Waffles and Mochi appear in it. And it was a lot of fun. Drew Barrymore is so sweet, and she was really wonderful to meet and work with. You know, it was awesome. And Michelle Obama was there as well, and we just played around. It was a good time.
Nice. And you got to play Mr. Scribbles in Sci-Fi Wire After Dark.
That's right. I played Mr. Scribbles. That was shot during the pandemic, and so when New York City was locked down and everyone was trying to figure out what to do as far as making shows, NBC Sci-Fi had a idea to make a show where everything was being shot out of somebody's apartment. And they reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, you're a puppeteer. Do you happen to know how to not just puppeteer, but also build and shoot video?" And I said, "Yes, I can do all those things." And so they hired me and I did everything out of my apartment. I built Mr. Scribbles, and actually Mr. Scribbles is right there. That's Mr. Scribbles up on the wall. And I built him in my home, dyed all the fur myself in my home, in my apartment in New York. And we then shot it in my apartment. They sent me all the equipment. And so for 3 days, my apartment looked like a broadcast studio and had all these giant lights and backdrops and big cameras. And the directors and the producers were all phoning in via Zoom, kind of like how we're talking now. And they directed me. And I had a little podium that Mr. Scribble sat behind, and I performed him. It was a lot of fun.
All right. And I did saw a YouTube channel for the first time, which is Mish and Mash.
Yes, that's not my personal YouTube channel, but that is a show that kids YouTube channel that I worked on where I wrote a couple of the scripts and I performed one of the characters. I performed Mish. Yes, I performed Mish, the yellow one. And at first, it was Kathy, Kim, and I performing the characters. And then my friend Weston Long came in and performed Mash. And it was a good time. We just performed the characters in front of a green screen and just got to play and goof around. It was a good time, and it's fun. There's some good videos in there for kids.
You still have Mish.
I don't have Mish. That wasn't a puppet that I made, so I didn't get to keep him.
Okay. Um, what was it like working on Monster.com?
That was fun. That was a virtual puppet, and so I didn't do the voice or anything. I just performed with my hands and a sensor, kind of like Sienna's Sea Friends. We had little sensors that tracked where our hands were, and we performed the character like that, and I would move around. And that was the first time that this company called The Mill, they're an advertising company. That was the first time they'd ever used that technology to perform characters like this for big brands. And what's funny about working for them is when I was younger, excuse me, I originally wanted to work in animation and visual effects. And The Mill was one of the companies that I was aspiring to work for. And so when I was like 18, I wanted to work for The Mill. And when I was 20, I sent them my resume and I sent them a demo reel that was on a DVD, sent it in the mail, and never heard back because at that time really wasn't very good. And by the time I'd gotten better at animation and visual effects, I was already transitioning into becoming a puppeteer. So it's funny to me that it's puppetry that got me to work with a company that I had admired for so many years. And I worked for them for a long time. I've done work for them. I did work for them for like 4 years. I was coming in and doing a lot of digital puppetry stuff with them and doing some consulting work on how to make their system work better with puppeteers. And part of the reason why I was brought into them to work as a consultant in that way is because of my background in visual effects and animation. I understood their language. And so I could say things that made sense, as far as like how to adjust things within the applications they were using and just in the world of 3D animation. And so me and the animators were able to find common ground and discuss stuff. But I could also translate puppetry to animation to help them understand what I needed as a puppeteer or what other people needed as puppeteers.
All right. How about OKTreasure.com?
OKTreasure.com is a commercial series that I did for the Oklahoma Treasury Department. They had a program. They have a program. Every state has this program, and they needed to get people to pay more attention to it. And so an ad agency had reached out to me and were thinking about hiring me as an animator to animate stuff. And I wasn't really interested in animation. And so I said, well, why don't we do a puppet? And they were like, can we do a puppet? I was like, yeah, of course, let's do a puppet. And so I pitched an idea of this like scissor tail puppet, and they were really into it and hired me. And so they had me build the puppet, design it and build it. And then I flew out to Oklahoma and performed the character. And we did 3 commercials, I believe. The first one is of the Scissortail character named his name's Sirius Lee Scissortail. And oh no, we did 4, I think. We did 4 commercials. And one, he's like at the state capitol, and another one, he's in his home office, and then in another one, he's actually addressing a whole room of small birds. And so I built one little bird and performed this one little bird in like I think 10 or 12 seats in different ways, and then they composited the birds in all of the seats in the room, so it looks like a massive room full of birds. But yeah, that was a fun one. That was great.
And you worked on another short film called Slam Dunk.
Yes, that was a super short that I did. I I sometimes have ideas in how things can be done, uh, either in any of the art forms that I do. And oftentimes, when you have ideas of something you want to try, uh, working on a client project isn't always the right place to try that out, or because it made what you're wanting to try to do doesn't really work for it doesn't really service the story that your client is trying to tell. And so I wanted to try to make it look like this character right here. His name's Bear. He's from a YouTube channel that I have called Bizzaro Studio. And I wanted to make it look like he was actually standing on a basketball court and then in one shot, jumping into the air, flying across the screen, and, putting his hand and dunking it into the basket. But I also wanted to do that. I knew that I couldn't do it with a green screen. And so the visual effects person in me had to figure out how to do that. And I figured out a method to remove myself from the screen without me having to wear a green screen suit, and without having to put a green screen behind him. And so he's actually in the scene doing all that stuff. And then I just removed myself. And it was actually a pretty painless operation. And that has to do with the puppet itself and some like rotoscoping techniques that I know. And it turned out really well, and it's beautiful. It was shot on a really beautiful camera on some really beautiful lenses, and it looks very cinematic. And that was a big part of the goal with that one, was to make something look really big and cinematic with a puppet without having to solely rely on hiding your puppeteer underneath the frame, or trying to hide them inside of an object or something like that. And so I wasn't trying to prove it to other people. I was mostly just trying to prove it to myself so that I could understand it better.
All right. And you worked on the Lego Hidden Side interactive experience.
I did. I was again a digital puppeteer for the mill, and I performed a Lego character who was helping YouTube influencers go through a haunted house. And it was for their new Lego set that year that was like called Lego's Hidden Side. It was a lot of fun. But I hate to say this, Cameron, I have to go. I have a meeting that's supposed to be starting now. And so I have to hop off.
Oh,
But this was a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you reaching out to me to be on your podcast and sharing your VHS copy of Muppets in Space. That's really, really cool.
okay. Before you go, I
Uh-huh.
wanted to conclude this puppet right here.
Which puppet? Are you going to put it on the screen?
This blue thing right here.
Oh, this guy right here?
Yes.
That is Jerry Facockle. He is a character that I do on my own like personal YouTube channel called David Bizzaro. And he has a talk show that he does, and he does like little silly segments. And he sort of talks like this. He's more of a southern character, and sort of just sounds like this guy right here is who he sounds like. And he just sort of wait, no, he's more here. That's where he is. I'm sorry, I totally forgot how to do his voice. But he's somebody that I really enjoy doing. He's just a weird son of a gun. That's who that is.
You showed to me?
Oh, you want to see him? He's
Yes.
in pieces right now. So hang on, I'll get his head. Hang on. Okay, so he's in pieces currently, but I'll pull his neck in. He looks like this. This is what he looks like. He's a live hand puppet who has a live hand here. And I made this shirt, and I built all this guy. He's got a really big head, really large head, and some really lovely hands. And his shirt has really cool flowers on it. Yeah, he's pretty great. I like him quite a bit.
You should try him on.
I should try him on. Okay, I'll try him on. Let's see. Oh, hi there, Cameron. I'm sorry I didn't. I was sitting over there on that pole. This guy won't pull me off very often. Here I am doing my thing. How are you, Cameron?
Good.
Good. You having a lot of fun making your podcast?
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, Cameron, I gotta go get some ribs ready for a barbecue, but I'm gonna make sure you have a great day. All right, bud? All right. Okay, well, I'm gonna head on out of here. All right, bye, Cameron.
Bye.
Bye. All right, see you, everybody. I'm just gonna run off now. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad you suggested that I go get him.
Well, David, thank you so much for having me. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, yeah, I'd like to say that I'm really glad that you're doing this podcast and that you are making the space for folks like me to come on here and share little bits of our lives so that others can hear about them. And I'm sure what you're doing is inspiring others. So thank you for doing this. This is really wonderful and such a great podcast.
Nice. We made it to 10 episodes.
Made it to 10. I'm proud of you. That's a good accomplishment.
Okay.
And many more to come.
All right. So, stay tuned for there'll be more guests coming up. So, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays!
All right. Until
Okay.
next, peace.